Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am starting a reading vlog for the TBR Clear Out Readathon. This is hosted by Katie over at Books and Things. I will link her channel down below. Essentially, this is a readathon where we are encouraged to read things from our TBR, whether that's physical or virtual TBR. This year, Katie has some prompts, so I'm going to share my picks for all of those prompts. And then, take you along with me as I read some of these books over the next 1 or 2 weeks. The first prompt is set your own TBR clear out goal. Now, there are 6 other prompts besides this one, so I will have a TBR, quote unquote, of 6 books, but that is not going to be my goal to read because I am also judging the BookTube prize this round. So I'm going to say for the TBR Clear Out Readathon, I will read 3 books. The next prompt is to read a book that has been on your TBR for a very long time. And for this, I am choosing Paddy, Clarke, Ha 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 by Roddy Doyle. This has been on my TBR in 2 ways for a long time. It's been on my list to read since high school. It has been on my shelves for at least 4 years, maybe 5 years. Don't know what it's about. It's about a boy called Paddy Clarke. The next prompt is to read a book that has been on your TBR for a very short time. And for that, I have chosen Based on a True Story, Not a Memoir by MacDonald. I was gifted this for Christmas because MacDonald is my favorite comedian. I haven't heard the greatest things about this since getting it, but yeah, it's only been on my TBR for a few months. The next prompt is to read one of the longest books on your TBR. And for that, I've chosen Birds Without Wings by Louis de Bernières. This isn't the longest book on my shelves, but it's probably within the top 5 or 6. It's about 550 some odd pages. It's set during the fall of the Ottoman Empire into the First World War. And I don't know much else about it. I've already started this one, so this one is definitely getting read. The next prompt is to read one of the shortest books on your TBR. And for this, I chose The Electric State by Simon Stålenhag. It looks bigger than it is. The pages are really long, but it's under 150 pages. And also it has these gorgeous full page illustrations. So you can see the pages that do have text. Some of them don't have any text at all. And other pages have quite minimal text. So this is definitely not going to be a very long read. The next prompt is to read a book from your TBR that you fear you have lost interest in. And for this, I have chosen Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Just as time goes on, I find myself not curious about this book anymore. If I don't read it now, I'm not very likely to read it. I might just watch the movie. I don't know. Last prompt is to read a book from your TBR that you are very excited to get to. And for this, I have chosen Leave the World Behind by Rumaan. It's about a family who are staying at this kind of Airbnb type thing. I think they've rented out a house, and then a couple people arrive to the house saying that basically something's happening in the world, some sort of apocalypse maybe. I think there might be a power outage, and this couple say that they are the owners of the house, but the people who are staying there, I don't know if they really believe them. I think there's a racial element to this. I really want to get to this one because this actually isn't my book. I borrowed this from my mother-in-law, so I'd like to read it and return it in a timely fashion. I've already had it for, I think, over a month, so want to get to that. So those are my very loose plans. I will read probably about half of these books, and I will check in soon with some thoughts. I am about 50 pages into Birds Without Wings by Louis de Bernières, and here's my dilemma. I very much enjoy the author's writing, and I have loved a previous book that I read by him, but I'm just not feeling this book yet. I know I'm still early on, but I just don't feel any sort of pull to read it. I have to kind of make myself pick up this book and remind myself to read it every day, and I'm just not making much headway on it. And I don't know if it's just because I'm comparing it constantly to Captain Corelli's Mandolin. There's a lot of characters introduced, and we're not really getting their innermost thoughts and feelings. So it's very looking at these characters from a distance, and there's a lot of characters, so we haven't gotten to know any of them very well yet. However, Captain Corelli's Mandolin, I feel, did the same thing, maybe not to this degree. That book had at least more interesting characters. I remember the opening scene to that book. The first chapter just sucked me in immediately, whereas this one, it was giving some background. It was all a little bit dull, so I don't know. I'm just feeling kind of blah. I don't want to give up on it yet because I feel like there's potential there. So I'm going to say that I'm at 50 pages. I'm going to read to page 100. And if by 100 pages in, I am not invested in any characters or in the story or in anything, then I'm going to DNF it. I really tried, but I am DNFing Birds Without Wings. I got to page 102 over lunch, and it's really a shame because there are certain elements of this that I like. I really like his writing style, but there are just so many characters, and each chapter is cutting to a different character. And I don't mind having multiple characters. I know that he's going to weave their stories all together in some fashion, but there are just so many characters that I cannot keep things straight in my head, first of all. And also, I'm just not getting to know the characters enough by that point in the book. Normally, I don't read reviews while I'm reading a book, but if I am considering DNFing it, I will sometimes go and read reviews, which is what I've just done. By and large, it looks like people who really loved this, who gave it 4 and 5 stars, seem to have liked it from the outset and love all of the characters, whereas people that are rating it pretty low seem to have the same problems that I did in terms of the number of characters, too many storylines, too choppy, and the pacing kind of off, that it's still choppy all the way through, that it doesn't really build in any sort of satisfying way. And I suspect I'm going to feel the same. That's really a shame, but maybe I'll just reread Captain Corelli's Mandolin at some point. I am going to pick up Leave the World Behind by Rumaan. I've been wanting to read this for a long time. So even though it's polarizing, I am going into this with high hopes that this isn't another DNF, so I'll check back when I have some thoughts to share. Days ago, we were lucky enough to view the solar eclipse safely. We had the glasses and whatever. We were lucky enough that we are on the path of totality. So it was so cool. I took footage, but I don't know how it turned out because I was trying not to look at the sun and just get glimpses of what was happening. I'll put it in if you can see at all what's happening. Anyway, I am a big chunk of the way through Leave the World Behind, and I'm not falling in either of the I love it or hate it camps that everyone else seems to fall under. My impression, based on other booktubers' thoughts, was that this book would be a lot more ambiguous as I think it actually is. Not that you are getting exact answers or anything like that, but from what I had heard, I had pictured a story where these two owners of the house come home and the people who are renting the house don't know if they're telling the truth, or that something kind of big is happening, or that it was more so just a run-of-the-mill power outage and that this was some sort of scam, or maybe these people don't even own the house, or something. I thought that would be more ambiguous, and that the entirety of the book would be this building tension as they grow to distrust this couple more and more. That's what I had kind of envisioned with this background of like, maybe it's the apocalypse, maybe it's not. Whereas I think it's pretty clear that something big has happened. It's unclear whether it's like apocalyptic or whether it's just a very big accident or an event that's significant in some way. You get little snippets throughout the book of little just like scenes, little inklings that something is happening back in the city, but it's unclear exactly what it is. Some of the things we're seeing could be just because of a run-of-the-mill outage, but there are hints that there is something bigger going on, but it is ambiguous as to exactly what has happened. So I think that's where the ambiguity comes in. I finished reading Leave the World Behind, and this was all right. There were parts of it that I liked and other parts that I just think could have been done a lot better, I guess. I think what I liked about the book is the characters. I think there was a lot of interesting stuff going on with the racial dynamics and also with survival instincts or lack thereof and how each person was handling the situation. So I thought there was a lot of interesting stuff there. I liked the premise of being kind of stuck in this one house with people that you don't really know, and I quite like things that feel a little bit claustrophobic and tense. But this brings me to what I didn't really like so much in the book, and that it was not as tense as I think it should have been. I think it would be different if that's not what the author was going for, but I do feel that there was supposed to be this tension and this building of the tension over the book that I just didn't feel at all. When the owners of the house first get there, it's a little bit tense, but more than anything, it's just awkward, which I suppose is fine. But over the course of the novel, as more things are being revealed or not revealed, they are kind of in the dark, their phones won't work, they can't listen to news on the TV, they have no idea what's going on. Other things happen which cause them to have to make decisions about where they should go or not. And I just feel like that all fell a bit flat. There didn't really seem to be any building tension. I didn't feel like it was building towards anything, except at the very, very end. The last few pages, I got this glimpse of what the entirety of the book could have been, which is kind of disappointing. So yeah, I didn't dislike it. I heard some people say that the writing was poor, which I completely disagree with. I think it is a certain type of writing that might not be to everyone's taste. It's not my favorite type of writing style, but I don't think it's fair to say that it was poorly written or that the writing style is like bad or something. I just don't feel like the atmosphere and the tension and the feeling of it came across. So it was fine. It's not going to be my favorite, but I am glad that I have finally read that, and I have to choose a new book to read now. I actually did start Paddy, Clarke, by Roddy Doyle, and I got a little ways through it, maybe like 10% of the way into it, and it just became apparent that it wasn't going to be my type of thing. I don't necessarily dislike Roddy Doyle's writing. I've previously read The Van by him, and I didn't love that book, but I liked the writing of it, and I liked some of the character work in it. But this book, it just became apparent that there was going to be no plot, and it was going to be all these vignettes of Paddy Clarke and his friends and their childhood in Ireland, and like playing down at the construction site and like getting into mischief, and how he writes about eccentricities of childhood friendships and some of the cruelties. I think that was all like true to life, but I know for myself that I cannot subsist on vignettes alone. I need like a through line. So I decided that one's not going to be for me. So I've DNF'd that. And I'm going to figure out probably one more book to read for this vlog. So I will check back soon. I read another book and it turned out to be a 5-star read. So I am very glad that I got to The Electric State by Simon Stålenhag. And it's an illustrated book. The back describes it as a narrative art book, which I've never really heard a book described that way before, but I absolutely agree with that assessment. It's definitely not a graphic novel. It's technically an illustrated book, but I think the term illustrated book doesn't really encapsulate what this is. So the centerpiece of this book is definitely the artwork. It's a dystopian apocalyptic type story where it's set in an alternate 1997. We're following a teenage girl and her little robot sidekick as they travel along the western United States. We don't really know at first why she's traveling. She's just moving towards the coast. That's primarily the story that's being told, although every now and again we'll get a page that is from a different point of view, that is more about the history, the background of this world and the technology in this world. There has obviously been a war. There's all these like old drones and things and large ships that are kind of scattered throughout the country that have been left behind. And I think the artwork was just so fantastic. And the juxtaposition of these old, like, decaying warships against the landscape of the western United States just paired so well. It's a very slow-moving book where you're just getting these snippets of what the world is as this teenage girl, Michelle, is moving across the landscape. And there's not really plot for most of the book until the very end. And I won't really say what happens, but I was just along for the ride of like exploring this world, enjoying the artwork, and then at the end it just kind of brought it all together in a way where it also gave me like the right amount of plot that I needed. I would like to read his other books. He has a couple set in kind of like a similar type of alternate reality with like different technology and kind of apocalyptic like type of imagery with the like abandoned tech. He has a couple of those but set in like the Swedish countryside, and I am just so intrigued by his artwork, and I love how he was able to hang a story onto this art. So I think this is going to have to be the end of the vlog so that I actually have time to edit it before April is over. Thank you all so much for watching. If you've read any of these books or if you've participated in the TBR Clear Out Readathon, please let me know what you've been reading or your thoughts on these books. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.